ANGOTIC 2024, whose topic is to digitalize, connect, and innovate. And we have the topic Big Data and Artificial Intelligence in Financial Service, a catalyzer for growth and transformation. And in this panel, which is made up of Faith Muzanza, who is the co-founder and chief strategist for the digital financial inclusion of Imagine Smart Cities on my left side. A round of applause, please. You getting the English, madam? You getting English? Está perfeito. We have Leonardo Maia from Inatel, Brazil. Good morning, everyone. Ricardo Gonçalves from Deloitte, Angola. Good morning, everyone. And Mark Guimarães from Kistec, Angola. It's great to be here. So without further ado, the topic is big data and artificial intelligence in the financial sector. And we know that we're in a more digital world. So we are subject to these conditions. We know that the data creation is actually exponential. It's estimated that 320 million terabytes are created on a daily basis of different data. So I'd like to start with Faith in order to give us an overview. What is big data?
It's quite interesting and a topic which is currently being discussed across the globe. It's quite interesting that while big data is not a term which has been coined recently, it has evolved over time. It has evolved over time to revolutionize how data-driven insights are actually collected, analyzed, stored, processed, and developed. And as the question has been posed, what exactly is big data? Big data is a combination of unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data, which is collected by organizations. And traditionally, we know that the mobile network operators have been collecting information about each individual. They collect information in terms of the location where the calls are being made, and your personal data in terms of your name, your age. Although the good thing is, while that data is being collected, it is also anonymized as well for your own protection. So these data sets can be mined to gain insights and used in machine learning projects, predictive modeling, and other advanced analytics applications. So what has changed over time with regards to big data, because it's not something which is quite recent, and we'll realize that the only change that we have seen progressively is that analytics before now seeks to glean intelligence from data and then translate that into business advantages, while big data is also underpinned by the 5 V's in terms of velocity, what's the speed of processing data. We are also looking at volume, the amount of data and the quality of data that is being collected. We're looking at the value that it provides to organization. We are also looking at the diversity in terms of the variety of information that can be collected and also processed at the same time. And lastly but not least, we also look at the accuracy of the data. And if we're going to compare the banking and financial services sector in 2010 and right now here in 2024, you see there is a humongous change and a big difference as the industry has also evolved. And over the past few decades, there has been rapid technological advancements world over, with individuals and organizations alike having to adopt new cutting-edge technologies. And we also see how big data and analytics is also transforming the way we transact, we communicate, and we generally engage within the ecosystem. And despite the years of financial services innovation, there are still over 1.4 billion adults around the world who remain unbanked and outside that financial services fabric, which is quite concerning. And there is a big opportunity for organizations to come together and to tap in. But not only that, there's also a huge opportunity for communities, for people to be able to benefit from the benefits that these technologies also bring to them. And interestingly, it is estimated, it's interesting to note that big data analytics is a big business, estimated to represent over 300 billion. That's a huge potential for us to be able to tap in. And this information is coming from a report provided by GSMI. This is the 2023 report. So there is a huge opportunity for us to be able to leverage and to explore the advantages that big data analytics can bring within the industry.
Ok, muito obrigado, Faith.
Thank you, Faith. This a well-structured response, actually. Leonardo, we know that, just like Faith has mentioned, there's a growing number of adults outside the formal financial system. So how is the big data and artificial intelligence, how are they supposed to facilitate the financial inclusion in the specific case of Africa? A great question, Mario. Well, today we see a growing number of people that use smartphones, tablets, and they are more connected. Well, it's worth noting that this is a necessary tool in order to have access to banking and financial services in a general form. As Faith has mentioned, and very well, big data, this great volume of data only becomes useful when it's transformed into information. And how is supposed a huge volume of data to be transformed into relevant information? Whenever we correlate this data in a generic manner, and we are capable of, with artificial intelligence, within the concept of machine learning and artificial intelligence, we are able to look at each individual and each consumer as he or she is. If we are to look at the banking system today, it has some services that are equal for everyone, but they're not adapted and flexible for all. Let me just give you a very example which comes close to our reality. A parallel example so as to understand the potential of the big data for consumers in the banking system. Today, everyone who has a Google account, we understand that whatever we do, wherever we go, what we buy, whom we meet, what we feed within the Google platform, Google will be able to set up a profile based on each person. And they started providing suggestions on consumption, on travel routes, and leisure based on my behavior, on statistical behavior. Whenever we talk about banking system, big data is the same thing. With this great volume of data, and by using machine learning, which is artificial intelligence, in the near future, this financial system will be able to predict or provide some services actually by looking at each individual in a very flexible form. The challenge, though, which is not only a challenge for Angola, but Africa and all over the world, are the elderly. The elderly, I mean, the people of old generation, especially those over 40, 50 years of age, who still refuse to use digital services for safety issues or due to the lack of knowledge. So the greatest challenge is that by looking at the people in an individual manner based on previous information and by using big data and artificial intelligence, how to make sure that these services are intuitive, especially for these people. For young people, we don't have a problem at all. Just to give you an idea, in Brazil today, a survey was conducted, and the young people in Brazil, over 30 years of age, below 30 years, they prefer digital banks. They rather go for digital banks. It's massive. Banks, they don't want to go to a bank physically. They don't have human physical contact. They want to do everything via internet. So I don't believe this is a problem. But elderly users that need this attention, in order to have a more inclusions of the services and opportunities that are a bunch of them out there. And just to complete my introductory remarks, is the peer-to-peer learning. And this is used a lot in Europe and the United States. In Brazil, it's still recent, where physical people can actually borrow money to companies. This couldn't happen in Brazil. This was illegal. From 2019, the Central Bank of Brazil created a normative legalizing it. So many fintechs were established in Brazil, where some of the companies who were doing some receivables or for fiscal notes, they enable physical people through this platform, they can invest. And this has been bothering banks in Brazil. That was quite an innovation. One person wouldn't bother a great bank, but more than 200 million people, they'll change the whole status quo of the process. And this is only made possible with big data and artificial intelligence. And it means that in order to be financially included, we need to digitalize them, their way of life and some processes in society, right? And understand how they want to receive these services in order to facilitate its usage. Marco, if we are to look at Leonardo's intervention on how big data can be included in financial service, what would be the real benefits of the big data for the final consumer, for the end consumer? There's quite an interesting thing. What do we do? What we have been doing in terms of practical manners for the big data? The financial system would use the data that the conventional systems would use. We had a file with a form stored in the system. Now with the big data, we have more possibilities, as Leonardo had mentioned, to update that information. In Brazil, there's open files that financial institutions exchange information with the consent of the user. But big data opens up possibilities. For instance, I can there's some impediment. Nobody likes bureaucracy from the banks. But for instance, now I can authenticate. I can have a password. I'll authenticate. I can put my by big data, by screening. I can place this information into the system. So this is the greatest issue. So with the big data, we can have the geolocation, the address issue. We can resolve. Let's say I live in a street without a name and with a house without a number, or my house is near the condominium X. Now with a cell phone, we are capable of tracking always with permission, because there's these ethical issues. One of the greatest challenge with a consent, people will be able that there will be a great benefit, and they provide their information. It should have been. It should be the way. There's also the ethical issues. This will enable the bank or the institution to know where I am, given the information provided by my cell phone, since I have the geolocation, theoretically speaking, and since I'm walking on the street, and I'm always walking, but there are places that I'm going to stay more often, and that is probably my house. So if we are to use this information, nowadays we can get this information, we can map everything. Big data is not a non-conventional information that we never had in 2012. I mean, we even had business review that was published in 2012, and they published a person with a what did we do? We domesticated these data, and we use this volume of information. We can use images, we can use digital, biological information, geolocation information, and all these at the service of facilitating or benefiting the customer, or even creating innovating forms of filling in the gaps. So I believe that this is the big issues that big data can actually bring about. And note, they'll to enable to know better the client, the customer. One of the biggest issues in Angola is this trust, lack of trust between the institution and the customer. I believe that the big data can actually fill in the gap we have in the market. Yes, that will serve as the bridge because trust is everything. The company does not want to provide loans because they don't have sufficient information. There is probably more risk, and people will, and the person will get tired of filling in forms in order to request a loan. And then the person may say, I'm not going to humiliate myself. So, in this, if we have accessible information, that could be a catalyzer, both for formalization of people in order to get into the formal financial system, but also to make these transactions smooth. Recap, being from Deloitte, a renowned firm, a worldwide renowned firm, and with an holistic vision of the market in the various sectors, what are the current trends of big data? If you had to look at to have an holistic view, and especially this new step in terms of artificial intelligence, particularly for the financial systems, in a financial inclusion perspective, there's an impact to all key areas of the financial system. And if you had to look at what a bank is and what an organization is, we clearly see the potential in all of these areas, both financial, where we want to have insights, reports on real time, and we wouldn't want to have this information on a quarterly basis. So this will clearly leverage big data and artificial intelligence. Many things that are more manual or repetitive tasks will be actually leveraged with big data. Another issue that's discussed a lot is that this process will be done with the customer in both marketing in terms of interaction, since the banks and other organizations will be able to interact with the customer. Today, we have smart customer. We have a capacity to interact with the customers on 24/7 basis. It's not just about customer service, but we'll be able to file complaints, and they'll be able to provide a quicker response. And the bank can also actually can have an adequate profile on the types of products that could be sold to the customer. Say, given the nature of the features of the customer, I will be able to predict what the customer wants. Another area we are which is an enormous logic for the organization in terms of efficiency, especially in the operations and back office areas, is the usage of big data and of all other capabilities with the AI, GNI, and clearly they will bring a huge operational efficiency. It's not replacing the people, but it will be strengthening these people, and their work will become more efficient. In other words, we will be investing in time and more repetitive tasks, or let's say in documents that has to be submitted in order to get a loan. I mean, these are things that will be done expeditiously, since they will be able to get information, especially unstructured information. This AI and big data capacity will bring about this operational capacity. And from the technological perspective, we are seeing a lot of advantages. What are these advantages? Is this applicability of artificial intelligence in order to produce softwares with some high quality in order to accelerate and will help organizations that do not have that much of a talent. It's not that it's going to replace a lot of people, and in technological part, And this is not just happening in Africa, in other parts of the world. Some technology, for different reasons, there could be lack of talent, and clearly the introduction of these artificial intelligence capabilities on data that will bring about software production and more, and it will make things a lot faster. We know that we are dealing with the era of data, of the contents. The volume of data is astronomical. There is a frightening velocity, and with with a lot of diversity. How can we predict the data, and how could the consumer be protected with the use of these tools that actually expose all of our lives, all of our personal data in these digital platforms? This is one of the major concerns of all users, especially the elderly. Marco spoke well about this issue, that first, the consumer, if the benefit from the big data and artificial intelligence can bring about information, they must consent first. They must give the permission. That's the first prerogative. The issue of privacy. And it's going to work a little bit like this. And there's a risk analysis for a credit loan, a bank loan. I have to go to a bank, I have to talk to the bank manager, fill in the form, very well. And in the future, very near future, this is actually happening with opening financing and various other applications. The bank can actually have all these information about me in order to conduct a more assertive risk analysis. That is, if I allow it. That's the first aspect. And we have implemented a general data protection law where the key premise is the willingness from the consumer. And I believe that during some decades we'll continue with these forms, physical forms, because some people, especially the elderly, adults, are not going to adapt, and they're not going to accept this privacy invasion of privacy, knowing everything about my life with respect to protection. And getting into the cybersecurity issue, I usually joke with my students. I usually talk to people in the sector that in mankind there will be a struggle, there will be a fight between rat and cat and mice, and sometimes the mice is quicker and smarter than the cat. So we have in the streamings, things are changing. In Brazil, we have a situation where a rich person would be kidnapped. So you put the person in the trunk, you take it to a place. That would be hard work. Nowadays, we are talking about kidnapping data kidnapping. So in their countries, I'm not going to mention names to create before I create any diplomatic problems, but they can kidnap data of a company. It's just like this fight between the cat and mice. So nobody can say that they have unbreakable systems, or that a system that will never be hacked. It has not been hacked yet. So by the time they suffer a cyber attack, and some of this data will be kidnapped, what will happen? The mice has won this time around, and then the cat will have to improve its techniques. So it's always like this. It's the crime will be getting better, and then that's how mankind is evolving. But the issue of security, financial institutions have been dedicating a lot of time, and big data can actually help with it, artificial intelligence and Marco has already explained, face recognition. We have achieved a degree of maturity in technology. Now, face recognition is 1,000 better than a keyword. That's 1,000 better than a keyword. And if we have to look at the people who have difficulties, I see people who go to the bank and they take their password in a piece of paper, and then sometimes they even they ask for help to fill in to put the passwords. But face recognition minimizes all these things. So potentials are bigger than the risk. Whenever we talk about face recognition combined with a fingerprint analysis, then you'll be increasing the degree of protection and obviously reducing the risks. The fact is that there's no such thing as a perfect system. Systems will need to be improved. Also, the forces of evil will also improve their techniques. They will actually improve their processes. But banks and other financial institutions, they invest a lot. And first, they are the ones responsible. And to finalize my intervention, now talking about the weakest link. Usually, the hacking problems usually take place on the users, the consumer. They are the ones who fall into these traps, and they end up handing their data that will enable criminals to have access to their information. So we need to capacitate ourselves. We need to work. We need to see how bank works. I've heard from Radio Angola that say if someone calls you asking for information, it's not us. Be aware. That is the future. That is the crime of the future. Unfortunately, the consumer is the weakest link, and they need to be capacitated as well. Faith, if you have to look at these big data tools, what is the strategy we are supposed to put into place in the African context in order to have a more regional and continental economic integration?
I believe for us to be able to create a proper inclusive strategy, we need to understand where are we at the present moment. And that may also begin with leadership. They need to understand and then lead their teams towards a level where people can understand what these technologies are coming to do and how it will benefit them to benefit the overall economic agenda for the country. And what we're looking at right now is research work is being done. It can start at a company level, and when you're looking at a continental level, I was privileged to interact with a representative as well from the African Telecoms Union, and I was happy to hear from them saying that we have actually developed an AI strategy that can be adopted, and it's going to be deployed from a high level, and it is also going to be shared on an institutional level. So that gives us support right from the top. And just to add on as well, besides the strategies that have been defined as well, I believe that they should be ethical use in terms of how these technologies are going to be adopted and used as well for it to be able to make better sense. We need to be able to capacitate our people for this strategy to be able to work. Yeah. And the use cases are different. We've got the banking sector, we've got the healthcare sector, and all these other sectors embedded, finance is actually embedded in all their transactions. So there is that great need to be able to capacitate and bring in the awareness in terms of how then can we drive the vehicle of technology through, big data, AI, and then deployment in terms of execution onto the ground. And then also, what I also wanted to add on is the issue of compliance. I think compliance also needs to be added into the strategy. And I also want to add on to a layer of confidence to say that regulators are working tirelessly to ensure that issues of fraud, issues of exposure of our people is well taken care of. So we are more concerned, and we are quite eager and very much involved towards driving a scenario whereby trust, safety, and security becomes top priority for our people.
Muito bom, muito bom. Indo aqui
Now, going back to the current context of Angola, Angola has 44 million inhabitants, according to the World Bank. 59 of these 34 million, it's around 15 and 35 years of age. According to Inacom's data, we have 25 million mobile users and 11 million internet users. Internet just share with us a data from the FinScope Consumer Angola 2022, which was published in 2023, which says that Angola has the highest exclusion financial rate, with about 53% of its adult population excluded from the financial services. Ricardo, with these challenges that I've just presented to you, and given the low level of literacy and infrastructure skills and the issue of privacy that was mentioned by Leonardo, how can we actually overcome these challenges in the Angolan context? It's a huge challenge, undoubtedly, that the country must deal with, and inclusion in the financial system must take place for the whole population in the best way possible. And undoubtedly, the issue of financial literacy is key, and we need to provide this capacity building for people so that they can trust the system and can effectively use it on a daily basis. The capabilities that the financial system and other financial services can actually provide in the market. We have seen some diversification in terms of services so that this financial inclusion can actually take place. And we've been talking a lot about the young population being more capable of using digital services through mobile banking. And I believe that this population is better prepared so that they can actually use the services. And we've also been using other alternatives, such as USB, for people who are unable to use mobile services, but they can usually go for some services, but they continue, but enabling them to take advantage of the financial system. There should be an investment in terms of infrastructure, especially in connections, in terms of network, in terms of data centers, networks, so that we can then potentialize all these services. Because we are talking about big data and AI, for instance, the consumption of resources is huge. We could have different strategies of having more local investments or making investments in other countries. But one way or another, there should be some kind of investment so we can then leverage this in the country. Is there any report from Deloitte with respect to big data and financial inclusion, AI? Do you have a specific report? I'll need to look at it. It's a big data. I'll need to look at it. Very well. We just closed the question session from the panel, but in order to innovate, we need to connect. In order to connect, we need to digitalize. That's why we have this topic, for ANGOTIC 2024. We have at least time for at least 3 questions. I don't know whether the audience have questions. I have someone with their hands raised. I don't know whether the production protocol can distribute the cell phone. Oh, sorry, not cell phone, microphone. Please stand, and it's going to be easier for the protocol to. Please identify yourself before placing the question and to whom you want to ask the question. Good morning. I'm Manuel Moraes Bento, and my question goes to Leonardo. You spoke about artificial intelligence. You also spoke about some of the aspects that have to do with technologies, such as face recognition and biometrics. Today, there are reports of invasions, even with the systems that have been implemented, such as face recognition and biometrics or fingerprint scanning. And studies also demonstrate that some videos, high quality videos, such as photographs, can actually be used for fraud, for frauds, for face recognition biometrics in AI. So how can we resolve? How can we deal with these challenges given these new techniques in frauds, in hacking, both face recognition and biometrics? First of all, I'd like to thank your question. Your question is of huge relevance because nowadays we ask ourselves, are getting to the digital world for any types of sensitive services, for such as the financial. The first question we need to ask ourselves is, it's a battle between cats and mice. Whenever we talk about artificial intelligence recognition system, it's not 100% safe. What is a face recognition system in reality? You have a camera, and they read strategic points, and then it has to do with the physiology and human anatomy, which are different in each individuals. You never have an individual with that set of facial points in equal form. So what does the mice do or rat do? So let's say if I get a photo and then I'm able to trick the facial recognition, these points that are captured by the camera, they transform into a number of instructions, computer instructions that will tell the system whether it's that person or not. What do we do in this case? We already have these systems, more evolved face recognition system. That is to improve these algorithms in such a way that you can identify or differentiate a real person from a photograph. Even it's a high resolution photograph. And then there's also the issue of the cat. So the mice went a technique in order to fraud, and the cat realized it and improved the algorithm and implemented more elements in order to improve that safety. And this will happen all the time. That's why nobody can come and say that the system is 100% unbreakable. This will never happen. As I was saying, before you kidnap the person, you take to a person. No, that's a lot of work. You kidnap data. So the nature of crimes are changing, but the systems are becoming more advanced. In Brazil, we are doing a lot of face recognition for public security. We have various cases of face recognitions that we're not that were done in an unauthorized manner. So face recognition is only done to a citizen if there is a similarity for above 75%, equal or above 75%. So the police can come to a citizen just to verify if that is the person they're looking for. So there's a face recognition, a second generation face recognition. You can actually work with the 80 or 90%. The systems will be upgrading, will be improving. I can combine face recognition with the face movement. There are actually some systems, let me just mention, of the photograph. There are some face recognitions, you don't do it with your static voice. They ask you to face left, face right, look bottom, look at top, so they can do a movement reading and compared it. So they resolve the problem of the photographs. That's the issue. The cyber crimes are out there, and it's good because the fight between evil and good, the evil will grow, but the good will also prevail a bit. You'll be able to get more robust elements through computational elements such as deep learning, machine learning, and they will be always be upgraded. Another example that we have seen in previous movies, and now and that today is a reality, not with the smartphone, but with the security system. You combine face recognition and the iris reading. So you're using two keys, cryptography, extremely cryptography security aspects, because you can get a photo. So these are the combinations and evolutions that we'll realize even more and will become more available to us. We have two more questions. Please give the floor to gentlemen. No, gentlemen here. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone, once again. I'm Nelson Maputa. I'd like to ask a question based on what was mentioned. You spoke about on how to handle data, but normally companies dealing with in the financial sector that rigorously regulated. Countries have laws, and they're international laws. They're all usually laws that also have an impact on data storage. But these laws can actually carry challenges for these institutions, and to apply big data strategy could be challenging. So I'd like to hear from you. Basically, is this: if you had to look at what could be the cost of having an infrastructure to support the big data, if you have to look at the operational costs, what's your standpoint? How can companies deal with the low versus operational costs in order to retain a huge amount of data? A company that is growing now, which is not even a big four or big three in a given market, how can they deal with big data if that company does not have financial capacity to have a structure or an infrastructure that supports big data? I believe, no, for whoever wants to respond to it, whoever wants to answer.
Allow Marco to pick it up.
Great.
There are training programs, free training programs that are available to train people. I believe that some of these skills, expertise can be organically grown to enable organizations like the one that you've mentioned to ensure that they equip themselves adequately and develop certain technologies and expertise in-house without necessarily having to incur a cost. And then secondly, I would also suggest that you can also create, we need to move away from operating in silos. Let us not be afraid, because operating in a single global market, it's about people coming together. Create strategic partnerships with people that have capabilities, collaborate with people that are within legal, and then you share the technical, and then you've got someone else who's saying, okay, fine, I have a community of consumers. Let's get into an environment where our ecosystem should be built with different capabilities. And they always say that you may go faster alone, but if you come together, you go even further. So yes, Marco, over to you.
Ponto. Uma das coisas que se fala hoje.
One thing it's usually said today, and Faith is right, with big data, with new technologies, the cost has reduced a lot. Has reduced a lot compared to an owner of a data center with supercomputer. And now they can use smaller computers with a lot of memory that uses a lot of resources. Not everyone as ChatGDP. Not everyone can have a ChatGDP to process information, or they use energy from a huge storage capability. But we can start small. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of open source. There's a data center in Angola. The regulation says that the data must be stored in the country. So we have structure, which is basically cheaper to rent, to get one of these data centers in one of these specialized companies, get a space, because we can do some small tests. And as things start growing, we can escalate and getting more space. And you can even get this structure. But nowadays, we have a lot of technology, open source technology. It depends on information and training, but there are many institutions globally who would want to help. Obviously, there are many things in English than Portuguese, but even so, there are a lot of knowledge. That's what Faith had say. Let us go together. There are many communities. Let us think of technology. There are more promising technologies and more powerful than big data that enable these technologies to spread. There's a Peace Foundation, DUPI, there are many libraries, and they're open. You can actually use those. They're free resources that enable us to start. And as we become familiar and testing, there are many universities, and there are people who are eager to work. And I believe that IRIS can take a lead and form a community in order to facilitate the integration. Yes, we have an internship. So as an expert, it's part of our contract. We are supposed to share knowledge. We're here. So you just get in touch with ITs, and they got the tools to help you. Just a small contribution, moderator, is this. We're talking about big data. These are very beautiful things, new things. They fill our hearts with artificial intelligence, but we need to look at the other side of the coin. We are a capitalist world. We are capitalists, and the companies want to generate profits. So it only makes sense to invest in something that you know that through a strategy, a well-prepared business plan and strategic planning, you'll be able to have a financial return from both a small fintech, a small company, or even or bank. We're investing in big data, artificial intelligence, and they look beautiful. Now my bank does facial recognition. Yes, they're getting money with this. As Mark had mentioned, they are implementing a technology, but before that, they'll need 100 people to do what the computer now does very quickly. So before investing, before thinking of using a data center or even doing any other application in big data and artificial intelligence for the financial sector or other sector, it's good to put it together a strategic planning so you can have your payback within your achievements. But in reality, I could also, and Faith was saying, we need to create an ecosystem, as Faith was saying. With the different actors with different skills, they always make a difference. Perhaps once again, I would launch the challenge at is to take a lead and try to exploit as much as possible from the available resources in the market. That I believe that there's a lot of talent out there and many things to be exploited. We have more time for one more question. We have the gentleman with my apologies, but due to agenda issue, we only have one more question. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me? Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Onelio, and my question is on the item that you have asked about the permission on the user must give to the companies in order to use their data. And my question is, if the company is to provide a service that uses my personal data, and I'm supposed to give permission to have access to that kind of service, my question is, are we heading towards a situation where unless I give that permission, I'm not going to have access to these services, and I can consider can I consider my data as being sensitive? Because nowadays we have a little bit of this. There are services that do not work unless they have a geolocation data, my geolocation. But in case of banking services and similar services, that's my question. That's my concern, actually. Are we heading towards a reality where all services will have to use our personal data? And these could be sensitive data. Is there an alternative to that? How are we supposed to mitigate these kind of things? Thank you. No, anyone can answer this question. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak a bit about, based on my experience. I've been making a lot of research to general law on data protection. So what are sensitive data? Well, in my point of view, it can be different from yours or other colleagues. But today, location data is not considered as sensitive data. So a data for facial recognition is not considered as a sensitive data. Biometric is not considered as well. But the information on how much I have in my bank account, that's considered sensitive data. And the question is that today when I spoke about the youth nowadays they use digital bank in Brazil, they have to provide this data, the data on geolocation, facial recognition, and biometric. So the issue relates to the open source, to say that the banking institution that they can consult my banking information, that's optional. It depends from one person to the other, and I believe that that's not the main concern. I believe that it can be our concern of an elder generation, but I believe that the youth, they don't have that problem. So whenever I lecture on cybersecurity to elders, is that the fact that as not being used to it, it might be a bit complicated to share our location. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a Google account? Yes, you have a Google account. So, do you give all your data to Google? Google knows where you go, which restaurant you go, and whenever you open a Google account, you end up not reading the terms and conditions. By they say that you end up access to everything. You give free of charge, and Google earns billions of dollars from the data that you give to them free of charge. So that's one thing that should be clear. The regulation on data protection, that should be, yes, I'm giving this data to Google. It will be Google responsibility if those data is violated at the database of the institutional database. They'll be responsible for each problem that might affect the user. So that's an interesting issue. So what is sensitive data and what's not sensitive data? And today we are looking at a lot of data that people provide without understanding, and these data are not longer considered according to legislation and as sensitive data. But we need to be careful. We need to be careful because that can put at risk the integrity and security of the people. So now we spoke about the legislation. There's a law from YA that was approved in Europe, and we've got the law on data, and we also have a data for YA. So who benefit from the use of data? Truly speaking, the use of our data, being sensitive or not, if it's for favor or not, you won't think that's bad. So one of the items that was approved in the European Parliamentary interview, they said that all the companies have got CCTV camera system, but I should not do analysis of my collaborator in order for me to know if he's satisfied or not with the work that we're providing. So you can have a dual use. So am I the person that's going to benefit, and if I'm benefiting, I can use it in an ethical manner. So health data, for example, if I've got data and I've got a heart problem, so they might use that to increase the price of the consultation that I'm going to have or not. But we have to look at the issue of being sensitive or not, how that information is used by the society, by the companies. I agree 100% with what was said, and this law focus on establishing what are the use case that can be considered critical or not, the way they're used, and effectively to defend the data and the privacy of people and the level of risk that they might have. Just give you an example, at Mina Geral we call it causes, not case, in the Portuguese from Brazil. I believe that in the interior part of Brazil, when we saw the first banking system camera in Brazil, and they had on cam, and one of the citizens said, okay, why are you using camera? So, why are you using that camera? What's that? He said, okay, that's a cam, it's filming, not provide your security. And he went to the Minister of Justice, and he sued the bank. He sued the bank. So the first evolution of the law in Brazil was, okay, the bank should put CCTV camera, but they should also put stating that, okay, you are being filmed. There was another citizen who said, okay, I'm being filmed due to security reason for the bank. So what's happened to my data? And they also sued the bank and also won that case. But this case happened years ago. But look at the type of concern that people had years ago. But nowadays we go to the bank, they have about 100 cameras looking at us, and there's nothing saying that, okay, you are being filmed or not, because we know it. So that has to also do with the feeling. So, just like stating your name, so you should know. So that's an issue of feeling, whereby you have to feel that your privacy is being violated. So I work with technology. I'm inside an institution. Sometimes I get concerned with the things that Google informs me. Okay, you went to that place. How was it? Did you enjoy the lunch, that restaurant? Did you enjoy going with the family to the shopping mall or not? So every innovation hurts. Innovation should break paradigm, and breaking paradigm, you feel it. It hurts, but it is inevitable. We need to go get into the boat and move with the future, because the future is big data and it's for us. So, do you want to give an opinion, ma'am?
All I can say is my colleagues have nailed it, but importantly, regulations. I'll go back to the issue of regulations. Regulations, the regulators are working tirelessly to ensure that institutions, people are all protected. And if there are any concerns that you notice, please do not shy away from reporting such cases, because one of the challenges is the lack of feedback. Just a couple of weeks back, I received a phone call. I don't have a bank account in the particular bank they named, and they said, you're this person. The name, they got it correct with the surname, and they were like, you have a bank account in this bank. And I said, bank account in this account? Are you sure? Where are you calling from? And they said, I'm calling from this particular bank. And I said, you know what? I work within the banking and financial sector. I'm going to report you immediately. And the person just quickly cut off the phone. Another story I want to tell you. Someone sent a message to me saying that you're looking for a job, and this is how much you can be able to earn within 30 minutes. It sounds so enticing. There is always a hook. You sign up to do that job, and then the next thing that they're going to be requesting from you is your banking financial information. And guess what? I blocked them. I don't need their money. And more importantly, it's important for us to protect ourselves. Any suspicious activities, do not shy away from reporting that. Because at the end of the day, it's a collective action for us to be able to come up with rules, laws that can be able to protect all of us as a collective.
Ok. Muito obrigado, Faith. Muito obrigado, Leonardo, Ricardo e Marco. Foi prazer ter aqui esta conversa. Espero que nas próximas edições possamos estar aqui.
To be with you. I hope that next time you'll be with us in future topics. Thank you very much for your participation.
Posso pedir para tirar uma foto nossa?
Pode.
Can we get a picture? Yes, we take a picture.
Você pode tirar uma foto nossa, por favor? Olha aí a violação dos dados da privacidade.
Sentados ou de pé?
Sentado.
Sentados?
Vale.
Wangambe, wanga wami ungibekewa santana se wangambe wanga wami yeah. Ungibekewa santana what
We are going to have another panel, ministerial panel. So we are creating all the conditions so that as soon as possible all the speakers can be here. And we'll start with this panel. Let's wait for a minute. Thank you.